From the slums of Panama to the bright lights of Las Vegas, Roberto Duran's journey captivated the boxing world. But what happens when the cheers fade and the medical bills pile up? At 74, the former world champion's life has taken a dramatic turn. Once a feared fighter who dominated the ring, Duran now faces a harsh reality that's a far cry from his glory days. In this video, we'll take you inside the struggles of a boxing legend, exploring how the man they called Hands of Stone is coping with life after the final bell. Remember that kid shining shoes on the streets of Panama City? That was Roberto Duran growing up in the tough El Chorrillo slum. Even in those hard times, Roberto had a fire in his eyes. While other kids dreamed of escape, he saw the boxing gym as his way out. Picture him, this skinny kid with rough hands, watching the fighters through the gym windows. He'd study their moves, then practice in the street when no one was looking. Roberto's first amateur fight was something else. This scrawny street kid stepped into the ring against a more experienced opponent. But when Roberto unleashed his punches, everyone knew they were seeing something special. It was raw talent, but unmistakable. Word spread quickly about the boy with dynamite in his fists. As Roberto collected amateur wins, people started talking. This kid from the slums fought like a demon. The boxing world waited, wondering when he'd make the jump to the pros. And what a debut it was. On February 23, 1968, a 16-year-old Roberto Duran stepped into the ring for his first professional fight. His opponent? Carlos Mendoza, a more experienced fighter. The bout lasted just 4 rounds before Duran's relentless attack forced a stoppage. The crowd went wild, and a legend was born. That victory was just the beginning. Duran tore through the boxing ranks like a hurricane. He left a trail of battered opponents behind him, and the boxing world couldn't look away. Who was this Panamanian kid with the iron fists and the killer instinct? They were watching the birth of a boxing icon, and he was just getting started. The best was yet to come. The slums of Panama City faded away, replaced by championship fights and global fame. Roberto Duran was on his way to the top. The boxing world thought they'd seen it all. Then came Roberto Duran. His fists moved like lightning and landed with devastating force. But what made this Panamanian fighter so uniquely powerful? The answer lies in a combination of raw strength and a training regimen that pushed him to the absolute limit. As Duran climbed the ranks, whispers turned into roars. Opponents started to fear those hands. They weren't just strong, they were destructive. Duran's rise through the boxing world was meteoric. Win after win, he proved himself a force to be reckoned with. The boxing community knew it was only a matter of time before he got his shot at the big time. On June 26, 1972, we got our answer. Duran stepped into the ring to face Ken Buchanan for the lightweight title. The fight was a war from the opening bell. Duran unleashed his full arsenal, pummeling Buchanan with relentless precision. By the 13th round, it was over. Duran had done it. He was the new lightweight champion of the world. At just 21 years old, Roberto Duran had reached the pinnacle of boxing. But this was just the beginning. Those powerful hands were about to leave an indelible mark on boxing history, and the best was yet to come. Duran had conquered the lightweight division, but a new challenge loomed on the horizon. The boxing world was about to witness a clash of titans when Roberto Duran stepped into the ring with Sugar Ray Leonard. It was 1980, and the stage was set for one of the most anticipated fights in boxing history. Duran, the seasoned brawler with fists of stone, faced off against Leonard, the young Olympic golden boy with lightning-fast hands. The build-up was intense, with both fighters engaging in psychological warfare that set the tone for what was to come. When the bell rang in Montreal, Duran came out like a man possessed. He pressured Leonard relentlessly, cutting off the ring and forcing the fight into close quarters. Leonard, usually so composed, found himself drawn into Duran's kind of fight. For 15 brutal rounds, they went toe-to-toe. In the end, Duran's relentless assault earned him a unanimous decision victory. Duran had done the unthinkable. He'd beaten Sugar Ray Leonard at his own game. He was on top of the world, the undisputed welterweight champion. But you know how boxing goes. there's always a rematch. Just 5 months later, they met again in New Orleans. The anticipation was through the roof. Leonard, learning from the first fight, used his speed and movement to frustrate Duran. He even taunted him, showboating and making Duran miss. Then, in the 8th round, something bizarre occurred. Duran turned his back and waved his glove, saying, "No mas. No more." The boxing community was left in disbelief. Duran, the man with hands of stone and a heart of a lion, had quit. It was a moment that would haunt him for years to come. The impact on Duran's career and psyche was immediate and long-lasting. How could the proud warrior from Panama explain walking away from the biggest fight of his life? This dramatic swing from triumph to infamy would become a defining chapter in Duran's storied career, setting the stage for a long road back to redemption. Have you ever wondered how a fighter comes back from ultimate disgrace? For Roberto Duran, quitting against Sugar Ray Leonard sent him spiraling into boxing's abyss. After the No Mas fight, Duran's reputation shattered. The man once feared as the hands of stone became a joke overnight. Boxers who used to tremble at his name now snickered behind his back. But Duran's mental toughness was legendary. He took all that doubt, all that anger, and poured it into his training. Every punch he threw in the gym screamed, "I'm not done yet." As Duran fought his way back up the ranks, people started to wonder, could the old lion roar one more time? The anticipation grew with each victory, his image slowly rebuilding. Then, in June 1983, Duran got his shot at redemption against Davey Moore for the WBA junior middleweight title. This was it, his chance to prove the hands of stone weren't just a memory. What happened next? Pure boxing magic. Duran unleashed a vintage performance that left the crowd in awe. For 8 rounds, he battered Moore with ferocious precision. When the referee finally stopped the fight, Duran stood tall as champion once again. But he wasn't done. Just 5 months later, Duran moved up to middleweight and shocked everyone by going the distance with the feared marvelous Marvin Haggler. Though he lost the decision, Duran had proven he belonged among boxing's elite. From the depths of disgrace to the heights of glory, Roberto Duran had shown the world what it truly means to be a champion. His comeback wasn't just about regaining a title, it was about reclaiming his legacy. For Roberto Duran, life after boxing would prove to be a whole new kind of battle. What does a man do when the only world he's ever known slips away? When Duran hung up his gloves for good in 2001, he had amassed a fortune. Millions upon millions of dollars. But you know how it goes. Money has a way of disappearing. Remember those stories of Duran's lavish spending during his fighting days? They weren't just stories. The man lived large, and old habits die hard. Can you picture it? Duran, the guy who once commanded 7-figure purses, struggling to make ends meet. It's a far cry from the days when he'd roll up to nightclubs in limos, throwing cash around like there was no tomorrow. But that's the reality he faced. Here's the thing, though. While Duran's bank account might have taken a beating, his popularity never waned. In Panama, he's still treated like royalty. Walk down any street in Panama City, and you'll see his face plastered on walls, his name spoken with reverence. It's like time stood still, and he's still the undisputed champ. These days, Duran lives a much simpler life. The mansions and fancy cars are long gone. But don't think for a second that he's beaten. This is Roberto Duran we're talking about after all. Just when you think you've got the story figured out, life throws another curveball. Recently, Duran found himself facing a different kind of fight, one for his health. The man who once seemed indestructible in the ring was now battling heart issues. It's a stark reminder that even legends are not immune to the passage of time. In June 2022, Duran faced a challenge that even his legendary toughness couldn't shrug off. The boxing world held its breath as news spread that Duran had been rushed to the hospital with chest pains. Doctors diagnosed him with arrhythmia, a serious heart condition that threatened the life of the seemingly invincible champion. For a few tense days, fans and fellow boxers alike waited anxiously for updates. Then, the news we'd all been hoping for finally came. Duran had undergone successful heart surgery. The doctors had managed to correct the arrhythmia, giving the champ a new lease on life. Can you imagine the collective sigh of relief that swept through the boxing community? These days, Duran's taking it easy, focusing on his recovery. It's a different kind of fight now, one that requires patience and perseverance. But if you know anything about Roberto Duran, you know he's got those qualities in spades. Looking back on Duran's incredible journey from the streets of Panama to the pinnacle of boxing glory, and now through this latest health battle, his legacy shines brighter than ever. It's not just about the titles or the victories, it's about the man himself, his unbreakable spirit, and his ability to face any challenge head on. That's the mark of a true champion, isn't it?